with the basic thing. What are the biggest issues the world is facing right now today? And the biggest one that comes to mind is climate change. Right now, the Earth's average temperature has grown by nearly 1 degree Celsius. The concentration of these greenhouse gases is at their highest level in 800 years. We are already seeing and facing these climate change with weather events like droughts, storms that are becoming more frequent and more intense. So what's the other problem the world is facing right now? Another issue that we're facing is massive population growth. It is said that the population is set to hit 9.7 billion by 2050. So over the last 50 years, the human population has tripled. Now, and of that, 80% of the population is said it's going to be living in cities. It's going to be concentrated in the cities. Now, this is causing the cities to get congested, which is leading to urban sprawl in major cities all over the world. So how do we deal with these issues? So this is what led to my research question. How can the inherent characteristics of urban sprawl be used as an opportunity to design a community as a net positive source of energy for our urban environments? So basically my aim would be to design a community as a net positive neighborhood. And it would be overall be net positive in terms of energy like biopower, biofuel and power and water. And to achieve this, I'll be evaluating and analyzing the existing issues that the cities are facing all over the world and in Auckland as well. And I plan to examine and evaluate related projects and also explore the relationships between net zero neighborhoods and resilience theory. And then on that, I plan to determine a series of sites specifically for this research and analyze its conditions and issues that the sites are facing. So what really is urban sprawl? Well, Reed Eving has shown that sprawl is typically, that can be characterized as urban developments that probably exhibit at least one of these characteristics, like low density or single-use development, strip development, scatter development, or leapfrog development. Now, despite the apparent negativity that is associated with urban sprawl, case studies show that net zero neighborhoods are actually economically feasible, and they can provide some ecological significance to the community design. So the critical problem of community development actually rests in the assumption that development is necessarily damaging our environments. So we as designers are focusing on ways to mitigate the expected damage that these issues are going to cause. Now the intent of this research is going to be not just to mitigate those damages, those issues that are going to be caused, the issues that we are facing, but as well as to find ways to enhance our urban environments. So while projects that seek net zero neighborhoods are increasingly able to meet the greenhouse gases and carbon targets, what is needed is an urbanism. So basically that understands community design and as a net positive value to our social and ecological environments. I plan to do, my literature study is going to be on resilience theory. And this research will try to identify the random variables and disturbances that particular landscapes or cities face and find out how the dynamics of the city tries to adapt to respond to these disturbances and still maintain a state of resilience. So the extent to which the 21st urban century will be sustainable in large parts depends on the sustainability of the cities. So early ideas on implementing sustainability focused on concepts of achieving stability, of practicing effective management, and the control of change and growth. In short, in other words, a fail-safe mentality. Now, more recent thinking about change, disturbance, uncertainty, and adaptability is fundamental to the emerging science of resilience.
So basically the capacity of systems to reorganize and recover from change and disturbances without changing the other states. So in other words, systems that are safe to fail. I plan on looking on various similar case studies, and one of them being what are zero net neighborhood? Neighborhood with zero net energy consumption. In short, in other words, basically the total amount of energy that a neighborhood will consume annually will be roughly equal to the amount of renewable energy they will be generating. So I plan to do various similar case studies, and one of them being region villages. It's been termed as the Tesla of eco-villages. Now, it's a new vision of a more sustainable integrated community neighborhood. And it's being implemented in Netherlands. So this Dutch town aims to grow its own food, manage its own waste, and basically live off-grid. And the idea is to combine sustainable farming and land management, and with its own independently run tech infrastructure. So basically, it aims to be a power positive community. So it will be effectively generating a surplus amount of energy that will be then fed back to the electricity grids. And another example, this is set to be completed in 2017. And if it's successful, it is planned to be implemented in other parts of the Netherlands as well. Another example that I'll be looking at is the Beddington Zero Energy Development, or BEDZ, in London. And it's a community which is being it's a successful implementation of a sustainable and environmentally friendly neighborhood.
From renewable sources generated on the site. So basically, tree waste fuels the development's cogeneration plant, which then provides district electricity and heating. It is energy efficient because architecturally, the houses are all facing south. So to gain the most advantage of the solar gain, and they are triple glazed and they have high thermal insulation. And it is also water efficient because most of the rainwater that is falling on the site is then collected and reused. And appliances are also chosen which are going to be water efficient. And in fact, a recent review of the BEDZ development in 2010 drew really positive conclusions. And residents and neighbors were largely happy, and it reported a higher quality of living and basically a strong sense of community. Now, for the selection of site, I plan to choose a site in Auckland, but I want to research more on the various conditions in Auckland, because right now what Auckland faces is also being faced in different parts of the country, in different major cities. Like, it's developed in terms of infrastructure. There is population growth, it's increasing in intensity, so hence there is plans of developing towards the north and south of Auckland. Also, there's been development in Newland to create a new hub so that the congestion can be kind of segregated so that it can be reduced from the main CBD. So I'll be looking at various different scenarios of the site and then come up with a site that would be ideal for a neighborhood, a net positive neighborhood. And that would actually not just help Auckland, but other cities in the world that face similar issues. And yeah, basically that's the timeline, and thank you.
Okay, let's start with Professor.
Me first, okay. Well, I was starting to feel kind of frustrated, where is this project? And then you almost told us at the end, so that's good. But really, more specifically, is this a project which is in the inner city, somewhere on the isthmus, or in the existing suburbs, or the new suburbs, or out there in the peri-urban belt?
Yes, see, that's what I plan to do because I'm new to Auckland. I plan on studying all of these different, like you said, the peri-urban at the south, at the end, and also the center, like within Auckland. And then maybe I would choose which would be more ideally suited for a net positive.
For such an experiment.
But-
Okay, fair
So,
enough.
Vandita, but if you go back to your research question, you talk about urban sprawl.
Yes.
So you're talking about a peri-urban.
Peri-urban. Yes. That,
So it's more likely to be
predominantly, yeah.
Yeah,
away
so,
from the city, more
so
like,
yeah, so
I mean, near the edge.
So maybe Glenda and Tishko, because I was saying to Vandita that urban sprawl is very interesting, but you're showing the Auckland plan, and the Auckland plan is about containing urban sprawl.
Right.
So is it, maybe you could help Vandita here, is it?
You see, you should take this position more clearly. I think when you were talking about urban sprawl, I was a bit surprised by that. Where did it come from? Because it's nobody the title, and you might think of actually putting that somewhere in the subtitle of your main title, that this is actually making urban sprawl acceptable in a way, or more productive, or whatever you want to call it.
That's a book that Joshua and I wrote.
With the book that is coming.
Sustainable sprawl.
The point is, you will have to, at some point, to state your position with respect to urban sprawl, because you realize it's very contentious. Most people and most planners and most architects still believe that urban sprawl is bad, full stop.
Right.
But while here in this school, we're trying to say, not everything about urban sprawl is bad. There are some good things. And now that urban sprawl has happened, what can we do?
Exactly.
We can't sweep it with a vacuum cleaner, right?
Yeah.
It's there. So let's try to make something out of it.
Yeah.
And you're saying we could make it more generative, we could make it more productive, it could actually be like a power plant.
Yeah.
It could produce energy.
Yes.
That's your point.
Right.
Well, make these points actually crystal clear from the beginning, because you will avoid controversy and questions and unnecessary criticism or whatever. Thanks. Linda, you might still say,
Thanks.
no.
Well, if you hadn't looked at the outward urban sprawl, I would have said this site here that we're actually now on could have actually been its own little urban village with a lot of the aspects that you were talking about. And if you would talk to the Wairiki Development Company and convince them of the benefit of actually having your own urban village here, I would say that that was ideal. At the moment they're looking about residences, they're looking at businesses, so in fact they would be a perfect partner to convince that your ideal neighbourhood should be on this site. But that's obviously outside what you are aiming to do. Also, there is a sort of an eco-village out west. I forget which suburb it is. I've driven... Ranui, is it?
The Earth Song.
Yeah. So there is one now in Auckland. It was set up probably at the edge of the urban centre about 20 or 30 years ago when it was set up. And a lot of the principles you talk about, they're actually doing. So it would be interesting to see what else they might do to actually do better, if you like. I know quite a few people that have gone there, they grow all their own vegetables and they live in their own houses. And actually it's a really good... The only example I know of within the Auckland area. So, I mean, that's really all my comment is that you, that as a case study might be able to build on to make it into a better eco neighbourhood.
Because this is within Auckland.
Yes, yeah.
So you factor in the
Yeah.
aspects of Auckland's
Yeah.
climate and issues and then create it. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
Kia ora. I think you started off really well, clear, simple, nailed the issues, and then kind of the scope just went a little bit haywire. So just want to agree with the sentiments expressed over here about just nailing exactly what it is and how. And I thought that it might be useful if you are going to be looking at places and spaces in Auckland that you think about engaging a mana whenua. So the people who, mana whenua are the people who have vested interest in the land that they live on because they come from that place, as a means to inform how they're seeking to be self-sustaining in building up their whānau hapu iwi or their tribes. So their aspirations may or may not line up with trying to be an eco-village, but I think Indigenous approaches found within mana whenua and how they're seeking to be self-sustaining could be a really interesting perspective that might inform.
Yes, of course,
Do you see what I'm trying to
I guess.
say? Yeah. Might inform your thinking around eco-neighbourhoods that are place-based specific.
And if I could just add to that, I know that Ōrākei,
Yeah, I was thinking of.
in fact, Ngāti Whātua have a whole heap of land in Ōrākei. They've started a little bit of development there, and in terms of getting the older people, living there. And in fact, if you're wanting to do that sort of a case study, talking to Ngāti Whātua leaders about their aspirations, I think that they'd probably go well along the way to encapsulating what you're looking for.
So, do you know Ngāti Whātua?
Uh,
Heard of them?
no.
Probably driven past. It's like prime real estate in Auckland, down
Ōrākei.
Ōrākei, up on Bastion Point. It's just the most gorgeous view of the city. That's their,
That they fought very hard to have. So the government way back about 30 or 40 years ago wanted to sell it, and they exercised civil disobedience to actually stop them selling the land, and there was huge protests, and that was why the Ōrākei Act was set up. So I was a member of the Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei Reserves Board, and that was so we could actually, the city and the iwi could manage the land together. And now they've gone from strength to strength. They've done a lot of their gardens, working out how they do gardens, and a lot of that is being used elsewhere in New Zealand too. Again, a really good case study example.
yeah.
Thank you.
We could also mention the Tuhoi people, who live
Yeah.
in the east of the country, who recently have finished probably
Settling.
one of the greenest buildings in the world.
Yeah.
What is it actually? It's not a marae. It's what is the exact name? I forgot the Maori word for the building. You know which one I mean?
Yeah.
Near Whakatane, right?
Yeah.
A beautiful
Ruatoki.
building which aspires, I'm not sure if it still does, but aspires to produce more energy than it consumes. So you've got a nice architectural precedent there. Now, one practical point, your last slide, it's terrible. It's nice of you to say thank you, but what we're looking at is a white screen and 8 boring characters. Your last slide, this is a lesson for all of you, should be a nice, inspiring picture, like those pictures you had in the beginning of the beach and village and so on. So don't finish your presentation like this. You can say thank you, but leave us with a nice picture, not this.
So, Vinny, just go back to your, that one, sorry. Yeah, so I wasn't quite clear. So this is the Auckland plan, this is the area that it wants to expand, Whenuapai in the north and Druru in the south and Pukekohe.
Right.
But what's the coastal flooding thing? What are you trying to say
Oh
there?
yes, sorry. Basically, Auckland will be facing pretty much similar issue, like coastal flooding in Christchurch, and there are other similar cities that are facing issues like that, or probably earthquakes, which also hit again Christchurch. So what my aim was that when I'll be doing a study and then eventually a project in Auckland, the same characteristics other parts of the world will be facing, and so it will in a way help them as well. So it will not just be concentrated on Auckland, but it will be kind of a model that will also in a way help other cities that are facing similar issues like Auckland or in New Zealand different cities.
So you're going to address flooding?
This is just an example, but yes, I want to right now try and research all the issues, but no, that's not primarily what I'll be addressing. But the idea was to
Sounded a
explain.
little bit confusing.
Yeah, the idea was to explain the issues that Auckland will face and how I'm going to try and reduce them or kind of create a solution.
Our
for it.
international,
Yeah, our international.
Sure, yeah,
Exactly,
no, I
they're
get
all
it.
linked.
Yeah. So it's kind of specific, but they also have possible implications for other cities. Yeah. So Joshko, I mean, do you think Vandita should just stay with this, this kind of simple energy kind of metrics of the development, or do you think?
I reckon yes. If you could mention that there are other resource issues in any settlement, like food and water and waste and so on, but it's too much. I suspect we come to, so just mention them, say, yeah, there are other things that are important, but energy is the central one. It really is, runs everything else. So focus on energy indeed, and make it clear what you mean by net zero and net positive. They're not exactly the same words, okay? And related to that, I would advise you should talk to Hugh Bird. Our adjunct professor at the moment in the school is Professor Hugh Bird, who is an international authority on energy and buildings and cities. You should really talk to him. He's around, and he can show you, he can introduce you to his research, which shows that theoretically Auckland suburbs could power the whole city, right? We usually think that the city core is sustainable because of density, and the suburbs are unsustainable. His research shows it could be turned upside down. If all the houses in the suburbs had solar panels, they would be like a giant electricity plant, and they could power the city. The city could never power itself because it's got too many users and too many tall buildings, but the suburbs could. So his research is actually fundamental for turning this paradigm of urban sprawl upside down. You should talk to a few. Yeah.
Just one more question. Do you think, how does this project become a landscape project rather than a building project? Because I mean, it's easy to talk about zero waste, or zero energy buildings, or buildings that kind of produce energy. But what about how does a landscape do that?
Well, because it's
You're asking me specifically too.
The panel, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a problem, or should
Because Vandita actually is a landscape and a
landscape project, yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I reckon then you would need to look at the entire sort of open space, roofs included. But you're not interested actually what's in the building, because leave that to architects. So roofs become the landscape, and so does any other space that can generate energy in any way. So that probably means it's not just solar power, it's also wind power. That's a landscape feature if you wish. And also biofuel, growing plants which can be converted to alcohol or methane and become fuel. Because we need not only electricity, we need some fuel as well. So that's how I would go.
She's background in architecture.
I'm sorry?
The background
In architecture.
Yeah,
well, then you can do both, I suppose, yeah.
And I
But
think
if it's an MLA, then I would argue, looking from the whole totality of landscape from
absolutely.
above.
And I think that it's the development of a community through passive and active supply.
As well, yeah, that's right, yeah.
That's the traditional community
So,
design.
so in other words, if you argue that actually the buildings are now super insulated, so the demand goes down, then you can prove that all that energy from the roofs can power everything, because we now need less power than before. Yeah.
And just last thing, I was just saying that there's actually a zero energy house in there in Point Chair.
Oh yeah, we got one here, exactly. That's right, on Toy Street.
Yeah, going and having a chat to.
Yeah.
It was. It's.
Shave ratios, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. You should, study that one.
Cool. Okay, thanks very much.